I rarely get to put time in on one spot back home. I might get a couple days here. Maybe if I'm really lucky, I get a week, maybe the opening week of bow season, I'll spend it home. But I don't have the ability like I would if I worked at another job, if I just lived here and only hunted here, to chase a certain deer or to hunt a certain piece of ground. You know, going back to 2015, that was the year that I started to see my hard work on management pay off on my land. And I was using Antler King products. I had some food plots. I was clearing micro plots. I had a big food plot. I'd been doing supplemental feeding in the off season, and I was really starting to see some bigger deer. One of the deer in particular was a 2-year-old that had potential to be an absolute stud. Back in 2015, when I was hunting, I passed this deer 3 different times. One time he walked right under my tree stand. I had a brief encounter with him where I actually got him on video. He's a good deer. I mean, he's clearly a young deer, but all the potential in the world. Really nice 9-point. I was hoping that one of my kids would get a shot at this deer. One day Addison decided she was going to wait till the next day to hunt. I'm in the backyard looking out at my food plot, and sure enough, there he is, standing about 60 yards from our tree stand. I went out and got a spotting scope and filmed him best I could with my cell phone, and this is a good deer. Clearly a young deer, but what a great first buck for one of my kids. I really took it easy most of the summer. I didn't do a whole lot of anything. I mean, I laid around, I tried to eat right and take care of myself, get enough sleep, and I was slowly starting to feel better. The first cool day kind of hit, and I started thinking about deer season. And so I still was going to pace myself and take it easy, but I decided to go hang a few trail cameras just to get a little inventory of what was running around on the property. And on September 30th, I get this picture. When I put these Spartan cameras out and I get these pictures back, I was pumped, man. I was super excited on the few days I was going to hunt at what the potential could be for me killing a big buck. This deer is everything that you dream of if you're a whitetail hunter. He's got a great big old brow tine that curves in, big old heavy horn, long tine 9-pointer. Just a gorgeous deer. I was blown away that this deer was on my property. The more I looked at this deer though, the more he started to look familiar. And what I determined was he's the 9-point that I hunted over 3 years ago with my daughter Addison. So at this point I've just got trail cameras to look at, and I wasn't 100% sure, but everything on this deer's right side was identical to the deer from 2015's left side. And everything on his left side was identical to the deer from 2015's right side. It was just much, much bigger. So I'm thinking that there's a pretty good possibility that although the sides flip-flop, which is by the way possible when they get older, I think this is the same deer. So now I'm at home with nowhere else to hunt but here. So we're going to really see what Virginia actually has to offer. Even though I hunted this deer at least 3 times a week, I would never see this joker in the daylight. I would always hunt and then get a trail camera picture of him later that night. Didn't matter where I went, somewhere on the farm, I would get a picture of this deer, but it was always late at night or super early in the morning before daylight. I woke up the morning of December 1st, 2 days before my birthday, and it just felt like a good day to go deer hunting. There was a front pushing through. I'm driving down my parents' driveway, which is right down the road from my little farm. And I'm halfway down the driveway thinking I'm going to go like 3 miles back in their woods, like way back in there, and hunt a totally different spot just to try something new. Maybe he's on his feet and he's way back in there. And I just get this feeling like, go back to the field that you originally saw this deer in back in 2015. I just had a feeling that I needed to be in that stand. I needed to be back where I first spotted that deer. So I turned the truck around right there in the driveway and headed back to that stand. Now all I had with me, I had a little POV camera. It's not very high quality footage or anything like that, and my rifle. That's all I had. And I got out there at about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I was running a little bit late, and I got out there at about 4 o'clock. At about 4:30, it's starting to spit rain. It's misting out. And I look over in the far tree line, right where I got the first trail camera picture of this deer. and all I see is a giant rat coming at me. I turn the camera on the end of the gun and get my crosshairs fixed on his chest. He's walking right to me. Now this deer is 70 yards in closing, and when he gets into about 50 yards, the thing that I'm dealing with is I've got this cedar tree that I'm in, and if he gets below a certain point, I won't be able to get the angle to shoot him. So I frantically start trying to stop this deer, and I'm looking for that front-on chest shot. I'm up in the tree bleating like a calf stuck in a woven wire fence, and the deer finally hears me and stops. I shoot and make a perfect shot. It crushes him right there. This deer immediately goes down. He starts to roll, and he's kind of starting to pick up momentum and make his way across the field, just rolling and trying to get up. But anytime a deer acts like he might get up and start running, you need to put a follow-up shot in him if you can. So I got no cameraman and no concern and no care about filming any of this. I got my cell phone in my pocket, so I film a little makeshift recovery once I see this deer. Well, it's December 1st, and I've just shot the biggest buck that I've ever killed in Virginia. This is a deer that I've got trail camera pictures of for the last 4 years. I found one of his sheds when he was a 2-year-old, and he threw that point on a different side, but this is definitely that deer. If you look right there, you can tell that's 100% the same deer. It only seemed right to pack this deer full of ice and hang him up for the night, and then get some good footage of him the next day. We came out here to take pictures of him today. Had him on ice last night. He's still packed full of ice right now, so we're gonna go cut him up here in a minute in the barn. But the field right behind me that you can kind of see through the timber is the field I killed him in. And it's actually the field that I first got a picture of him and a first glimpse of him when he was 2 years old. Just an amazing, I mean, just a beast. Giant buck for around here.